This is not breaking news from any website, but it feels like news because it asks a question that burns. Can one teacher truly change a life that the world has decided to destroy? The bell rang like a verdict. In Class 11B, silence fell in a way that felt heavy, judgmental, and tired. Desks were carved with insults, chairs were uneven, and hope seemed like a rumor that never reached this floor of the building. At the back of the room, slouched like a shadow trying not to exist, sat Lin Mo, the boy everyone called trouble even before he opened his mouth. His temper was legendary, his fights were whispered about like urban myths, and his grades were so low that teachers used his name as a warning. Don't end up like Lin Mo, they said. And then the door opened. Xiao Zhan stepped in carrying nothing but a thin stack of papers and a smile that looked dangerously out of place in a room like this. He was young for a teacher, too calm, too gentle, and far too handsome to be taken seriously by colleagues who believed authority came from fear. The other teachers had warned him. That class will eat you alive. Especially that boy. Xiao Zhan looked at Lin Mo, and instead of seeing a problem, he saw a wound. Good morning, Xiao Zhan said, his voice warm, almost cheerful, as if this was a room full of potential instead of broken expectations. I'm your new literature teacher. A snort of laughter came from the front row. Someone muttered, good luck. Lin Mo didn't look up. He was busy drawing dark lines across his notebook, pressing so hard the pen nearly tore the paper. Anger lived in his hands. Everyone knew it. He had been bullied since middle school, mocked for his poor background, laughed at for his impulsive reactions. Even teachers had given up, calling him hopeless, unstable, a bad influence. Xiao Zhan began teaching as if none of that existed. He spoke about stories, about characters who were misunderstood, about people who carried storms inside them. His eyes moved often to the back of the room. When class ended, Xiao Zhan did something no teacher had done before. Lin Mo, he said softly. Can you stay for a moment? The room froze. Lin Mo stood up abruptly, chair screeching, jaw tight, ready for another lecture, another insult wrapped in adult words. But when the door closed and it was just the two of them, Xiao Zhan surprised him again. I liked your drawing, Xiao Zhan said. Lin Mo blinked. What? The way you draw lines, Xiao Zhan continued, pointing to the notebook. It's intense. Honest. No one had ever used a word like honest for him. That was how it began. Not with discipline, not with punishment, but with a strange kindness that felt suspicious and dangerous. Rumors spread fast. Other teachers scoffed. He's wasting time. That boy will never change. Some openly bullied Lin Mo in front of classes, mocking his temper when he snapped, laughing when he failed tests. Xiao Zhan watched it happen, fists clenched in his pockets, heart burning. At home, Xiao Zhan reread Lin Mo's essays, messy, angry, but raw with emotion. There was pain in every sentence, a voice trying to scream through broken grammar. Xiao Zhan stayed up late, writing comments not just about structure, but about feelings. You are heard. This matters. Lin Mo began staying after class, at first to argue, then to talk. Their conversations were sharp, sarcastic, sometimes explosively funny. Xiao Zhan's humor disarmed him. When Lin Mo cursed the world, Xiao Zhan responded with dry wit that made him laugh despite himself. You're annoying, Lin Mo said once, half smiling. I'll take that as progress, Xiao Zhan replied. The tension in school grew when Lin Mo's grades started to rise. Not dramatically, but noticeably. Other teachers didn't celebrate. They accused Xiao Zhan of favoritism. Students from other classes mocked Lin Mo even harder. One afternoon, a fight broke out. Lin Mo snapped, fists flying, years of humiliation exploding. The principal called Xiao Zhan in. You can't save everyone, the principal said coldly. Especially not him. Xiao Zhan walked out of the office shaking, fear crawling under his skin. That night, he almost gave up. Almost. Then his phone buzzed. A message from Lin Mo, short and raw. I tried. I really tried. Something broke and healed in Xiao Zhan's chest at the same time. From that day on, Xiao Zhan fought harder. He tutored Lin Mo privately, defended him publicly, and stood between him and the cruelty of adults who should have known better. Their bond deepened, filled with humor, frustration, and moments so emotional they left both of them silent. What no one expected was the romance quietly growing alongside the struggle. Xiao Zhan's heart began to soften toward another teacher, a music instructor who believed in Lin Mo too. They shared late-night conversations, laughter over instant noodles, and fear about the future. Love bloomed not as a distraction, but as strength. The turning point came during a school-wide academic competition. Lin Mo was mocked when he signed up. Laughter echoed. Even he doubted himself. On the day of the event, Xiao Zhan stood in the crowd, heart pounding. Lin Mo's hands trembled as he spoke, but his words were powerful, his story honest. The room went silent. When his name was announced as the winner, the shock was so intense it felt unreal. Lin Mo looked for Xiao Zhan first. Tears streamed down his face, unashamed. The school had no choice but to see what they had almost destroyed. Years later, a news-style headline echoed through the city, shared not from a website but from human mouths filled with awe. The former problem student, once bullied and broken, now stood as a scholar, a speaker, a man who had survived. And beside him, in the crowd, stood Xiao Zhan, smiling the same gentle smile he had worn on the first day, eyes shining with quiet pride. So here is the question that lingers, heavy and emotional. How many Lin Mo's are we ignoring right now? How many Xiao Zhans are brave enough to stay? If this story moved you, if it made you question, hope, or ache, don't stay silent. Share your thoughts, leave a comment, show your support, and stay connected, because sometimes the greatest miracles begin with one teacher, one student, and one impossible act of belief. Years passed, yet the echo of that classroom never truly faded. Lin Mo's success did not arrive like a fairy tale ending. It arrived with scars still open, with nights where anger returned uninvited, with memories of laughter that once cut deeper than fists. Fame, scholarships, and applause could not erase the years of being labeled a monster. And Xiao Zhan knew that. He knew because he had watched the boy learn not just how to write better essays, but how to breathe without rage choking his lungs. After the competition, the school tried to rewrite history. Teachers who once mocked Lin Mo now claimed they had always believed in him. Posters went up. Photos were taken. Apologies were implied but never spoken. Xiao Zhan stood quietly at the edge of it all, refusing interviews, refusing praise, because he knew the truth was fragile. He feared that if it was handled carelessly, it could break Lin Mo all over again. Lin Mo was offered a chance to transfer to an elite school. The letter arrived on a rainy afternoon, the envelope clean and official, the words sharp with promise. Opportunity. A new beginning. A clean slate. Lin Mo stared at the letter for a long time before bringing it to Xiao Zhan. If I go, Lin Mo asked, voice unsteady, will I become someone else? Xiao Zhan did not answer immediately. He looked at the boy who was no longer a boy, the shoulders less tense now, the eyes still fierce but no longer empty. You won't become someone else, Xiao Zhan said gently. You'll become more yourself. That night, Lin Mo left the school dormitory for the last time. He did not say goodbye to many people. He said goodbye to Xiao Zhan with a hug that was tight, awkward, and full of things neither of them could say out loud. When Lin Mo walked away, Xiao Zhan felt a hollow ache, the kind that comes when you've given part of yourself to someone who must now walk alone. Life moved forward, but not quietly. The elite school was colder. The competition was brutal. Lin Mo was no longer the bullied outcast, but he was still the outsider. There were whispers about his past, about fights, about anger. One night, after being pushed too far, Lin Mo stood on the edge of relapsing into the violence he had sworn to leave behind. He opened his phone. There was a message from Xiao Zhan, sent without knowing Lin Mo needed it. "How are you holding up today?" Lin Mo laughed, a broken sound that turned into tears. He typed back slowly. "I didn't break." And that became their ritual. Short messages. Dry jokes. Gentle scolding. Xiao Zhan never lectured. He never reminded Lin Mo of who he used to be. He only reminded him of who he was becoming. Meanwhile, Xiao Zhan's own life grew heavier. Standing up for Lin Mo had left marks on his career. Promotions passed him by. Some colleagues still resented him. The school admired his results but distrusted his methods. Love became both a refuge and a test. The relationship he had built with the music teacher was tender but strained by long hours and emotional exhaustion. One evening, after an argument that ended in silence, Xiao Zhan sat alone in his apartment, surrounded by ungraded papers and unplayed music. For the first time, doubt swallowed him. What if I fought so hard for others that I forgot myself? That was when a letter arrived. Handwritten. Uneven. Familiar. It was from Lin Mo. Inside were pages filled with words that were no longer angry, no longer broken. Lin Mo wrote about fear, about gratitude, about how one person believing in him had rewritten the map of his life. He wrote, "You didn't just teach me literature. You taught me how to stay human when the world wanted me to become a weapon." Xiao Zhan pressed the letter to his chest and cried, quietly, deeply, without shame. The years unfolded like chapters written with both pain and grace. Lin Mo graduated with honors. He spoke publicly about mental health, about bullying, about teachers who save lives without ever knowing it. He refused to name names at first, protecting Xiao Zhan the way Xiao Zhan had once protected him. But on one stage, under blinding lights, Lin Mo finally did it. "There was a teacher," he said, voice steady, eyes burning with emotion. He didn't see a problem. He saw a person. The audience rose to its feet. Xiao Zhan watched from the shadows, heart pounding, tears blurring his vision. In that moment, every insult, every risk, every sleepless night became worth it. The story did not end there. Because the real twist, the one no one saw coming, was not Lin Mo's success, but Xiao Zhan's legacy. Inspired by what they had survived together, Xiao Zhan founded a program for students labeled difficult, dangerous, unfixable. The same words once used to describe Lin Mo. Students came in angry. They came in broken. They came in laughing too loudly to hide the fear inside them. And Xiao Zhan welcomed them all. Sometimes, Lin Mo returned to that old classroom. He would sit at the back, smiling at the memory of the boy who once hid there, furious at the world. He would catch Xiao Zhan's eye, and they would share a look that said everything without words. So here is the final question that refuses to be quiet. If one teacher can change one life, and that life can change countless others, how many futures are waiting right now for someone brave enough to stay? And if you felt the tension, the love, the laughter, and the ache of this story, don't let it end here. Speak. Share. Respond. Because belief, once passed on, never truly ends. The story did not fade after applause and standing ovations. It deepened. Because success, real success, has a way of testing people long after the victory photos are taken. Years after Lin Mo became a name associated with resilience and academic excellence, a scandal shook the education world. A viral video surfaced showing a teacher publicly humiliating a student with anger issues. The boy's eyes, full of fury and shame, looked painfully familiar. The internet reacted with outrage, hashtags, and shallow sympathy. Comment sections burned with judgment. Lin Mo watched the video late at night, his hands trembling, memories clawing their way back into his chest. He could hear the echoes of his past, the laughter, the whispers, the doors closing one by one. He didn't sleep. The next morning, Lin Mo stood in front of a mirror and asked himself a question that felt heavier than any stage he had ever stood on. What would Xiao Zhan do? Instead of writing a speech or a carefully worded statement, Lin Mo went back to where it all began. He returned to the old school, the cracked walls, the corridors that once felt like prisons. Students recognized him immediately, whispers following his steps, but he ignored them. He went straight to Xiao Zhan's classroom. Xiao Zhan looked up from his desk, stunned, then smiled in that same gentle way that had once disarmed a furious teenager. You came back, Xiao Zhan said softly. I never really left, Lin Mo replied. They talked for hours. About the video. About anger. About how easily society still gave up on difficult children while pretending to care. Their conversation was heavy, emotional, and filled with dark humor that only people who had survived the same fire could share. That afternoon, they made a decision that would once again place Xiao Zhan in the line of criticism. They would speak, not as a scandal response, but as a truth. Lin Mo stood beside Xiao Zhan at a small press conference, no flashy stage, no dramatic lighting. Just two people and a story that refused to be simplified. I was that student, Lin Mo said calmly. And I was dangerous, not because I was evil, but because I was unheard. He paused, eyes scanning the room. If this man had treated me the way you saw in that video, I wouldn't be here today. The room fell silent. Xiao Zhan spoke next, voice steady but eyes shining. Discipline without dignity creates monsters. Patience creates humans. The backlash came fast. Critics accused Xiao Zhan of being too soft. Too emotional. Unrealistic. Some said Lin Mo was romanticizing violence. Others dug up Lin Mo's past, resurfacing old fights, old mistakes, trying to prove that redemption was a lie. For the first time in years, Xiao Zhan felt tired in a way that belief alone could not fix. Late one evening, he sat alone in his classroom, lights off, listening to the echo of distant traffic. He wondered if the world was ready for the truth he had spent his life living. That was when the door opened. Lin Mo stepped inside, holding 2 cups of cheap coffee, the kind they used to drink after late-night study sessions. You're doing that thing, Lin Mo said lightly. What thing? Xiao Zhan asked. Thinking you're alone in this. Xiao Zhan laughed quietly, a sound filled with exhaustion and affection. I taught you well, he said. No, Lin Mo replied. You stayed. That's different. The following months were brutal and beautiful at the same time. Their message reached students first. Letters poured in. Emails. Messages written at 3 in the morning by teenagers who saw themselves in Lin Mo. Parents wrote too, admitting fear, confusion, regret. Change did not come like a miracle. It came slowly, painfully, unevenly. But it came. The program Xiao Zhan had founded expanded nationally. Training sessions replaced punishment manuals. Schools began to talk about emotional literacy instead of just grades. Not everywhere. Not perfectly. But enough to matter. On the 10th anniversary of Lin Mo's graduation, the school held a small ceremony. No grand banners. Just a classroom filled with current students, some defiant, some scared, some pretending not to care. Xiao Zhan stood at the front, older now, lines of experience etched gently into his face. Lin Mo stood beside him. A student at the back raised a hand, voice sharp with skepticism. Do people like us really change? The student asked. The room held its breath. Lin Mo smiled, not softly, but honestly. We don't change into someone else, he said. We survive into ourselves. Xiao Zhan looked at him, pride and quiet love shining in his eyes. And in that moment, the past, the pain, the laughter, the failures, and the victories all aligned into a single truth. Some stories are not meant to end. They are meant to continue, in every classroom where someone chooses to see a person instead of a problem, in every student who learns that anger is not the same as worthlessness, and in every teacher brave enough to stay when walking away would be easier. So the question remains, burning softly but relentlessly. If belief can rewrite a destiny once, why can't it do it again? And now that you've reached this point, don't close the page quietly. Speak your thoughts. Share your emotions. Let the story live beyond these words, because the next chapter may begin with someone who reads this and decides to stay. The end did not arrive with a farewell. It arrived with a choice. On a quiet morning, long after the debates had faded and the headlines lost interest, Xiao Zhan stood alone in the same classroom where it had all begun. The desks were newer now, the walls repainted, but the air still carried echoes of raised voices, slammed chairs, and words that once wounded deeply. He traced his fingers along the edge of a desk and smiled faintly, remembering a boy who used to sit at the back, fists clenched, eyes daring the world to hurt him again. This was his last year. Not because he was defeated, and not because he had lost faith, but because he believed in something more dangerous than staying forever. He believed in passing the flame. When Xiao Zhan announced his resignation, the reaction was unexpected. Students protested. Parents wrote letters. Teachers who once doubted him stood in silence, unsure how to articulate the weight of his absence. He did not make speeches. He did not defend himself. He simply said, "It's time for others to learn how to stay." On his final day, the classroom filled quietly. No banners. No dramatic applause. Just students, former and current, sitting together. Among them was Lin Mo. Not as a guest speaker. Not as a symbol. But as a man who had come home. When Xiao Zhan entered, the room stood up instinctively. He waved them down, embarrassed, smiling the same smile that had once disarmed a furious teenager. "I won't give you advice," Xiao Zhan said gently. "Advice ends when life begins." He looked around the room, his gaze lingering on the students who reminded him so painfully of the boy Lin Mo once was. "I will only say this. Someone once stayed for me when I needed it. And I stayed for someone else. That is how this works." His eyes met Lin Mo's. Lin Mo stood, heart pounding, and for the first time, his voice trembled not with anger, but with gratitude so deep it hurt. "You didn't save me," Lin Mo said. "You trusted me to save myself." Silence filled the room, thick and emotional. After the classroom emptied, Lin Mo and Xiao Zhan walked side by side through the corridor one last time. Sunlight poured through the windows, warm and forgiving. "What will you do now?" Lin Mo asked. Xiao Zhan chuckled softly. "I'll rest. I'll write. I'll listen. And when I see someone falling through the cracks, I'll probably do the same foolish thing again." Lin Mo laughed, the sound free and full, nothing like the bitter laughter of his past. "I figured," he said. Outside the school gate, they stopped. There were no dramatic hugs this time. No tears. Just a quiet understanding. Lin Mo extended his hand. Xiao Zhan took it, then pulled him into a brief, firm embrace, one that carried years of unspoken pride. "Live well," Xiao Zhan said. "I will," Lin Mo replied. "That's your proof." They walked in opposite directions, not because their paths had ended, but because they no longer needed to walk together to remain connected. Years later, Lin Mo would stand in a different classroom, facing a different student, one with fire in his eyes and anger in his fists. Teachers would whisper. Labels would form. History would try to repeat itself. Lin Mo would remember a man who stayed. And he would stay too. So this is how the story truly ends. Not with applause, not with fame, not even with success, but with continuation. With a question that refuses to disappear. When the world decides someone is too broken to matter, will you walk away, or will you stay? If this story stirred something in you, don't let it fade into silence. Let it live in your words, your actions, your courage. Speak up. Share your thoughts. Because somewhere, in a classroom you may never see, someone is waiting for a single act of belief to change everything.